Okay.
And ladies and gentlemen, looks like we are live. To those who are watching, welcome to CPAC's The Comic Toolbox. We are the tools. And this Friday evening, we've got nothing better to do, so we're going to entertain you instead. If not, I'd be standing in front of a bathroom mirror singing, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, it's a Friday night," but I'm not going to do that today. And we're going to get right into it. Oh, no. Oh, no.
I think we
Boundaries.
should. I think we should wait for some people to come in. I think it's only right to wait.
All right.
Manners.
No
But
worries.
in the meantime,
We'll wait for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, yeah.
it's a good idea for us to remember that the four of us, our friendship, the root of it is comedy. It's what connects us. It's what makes this friendship so strong and special. I need a moment. But hi.
Thank you for watching.
Hi, Ryan.
What's up, Ryan? Oh, that's a cute doll.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. Kajun.
Oh, hello there.
That's
Hello.
you.
Wow.
That is.
Sorry.
The crazy thing about looking at these questions was Andrew.
Oh,
Andrew.
Oh my gosh.
All right, shall we get to it?
Yep.
Oh, yes. Let's do that.
Oh, it's Daniel. Hey, Daniel, what's up?
Hi, Daniel.
Daniel, my man. All right.
And I think it's always a good idea for us to start the conversation with, our inspirations and whatnot. And really, I think to each of us, there's this personality that the correlation with our favorite kind of comedy, right? And so without, beating around the bush, Brian, what is your favorite comedy style? Regale us.
Okay. My favorite comedy style is definitely got to be slapstick. When I started acting, that's the acting style that I've been working with all this while. I never let it go, and it's definitely been one of the most enjoyable. And I probably like it even more because of the fact that I grew up watching a lot of slapstick movies. Like I was telling Alex the other day that one of my favorite movies ever since I was a little kid was The Pink Panther. And it was basically this, if you guys know the Pink Panther.
I couldn't relate.
Yeah, but it wasn't the cartoon. It was the movie, right?
Oh.
And so it was the movie one, yeah. So The Pink Panther is basically a story set in France of this detective that is so dumb, right? But he's so passionate about his job that and because he's so dumb, right? People think he's so harmless, but he ends up being the genius that saves the day. And throughout the whole movie, he's doing all these ridiculous slapstick things, like for example, there was someone in the hospital bed, and while walking past the bed, he accidentally removes the emergency brakes, and the whole bed just slides down the hallway and flies out into the river Seine. Stuff like that. Trying to camouflage himself in a party by wearing a suit that's dressed exactly like the curtains behind him, and just doing all this ridiculous stuff. So that was my kind of comedy growing up. So I guess that's why I love slapstick so much.
Awesome. And we thought Sherlock Holmes did it first.
Yeah. Oh, hi, Dato.
Hello, Dr. Frida.
Hi, Dato.
You again.
Very good evening to our wonderful founder.
Oh my goodness.
Good to have you here. Yeah.
And, right? And that's what it's all about, Friday evenings, relaxing. Let's keep this conversation going, my friends.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I have a question for you, Mr. Luqman.
Oh,
Mr. Luqman.
Mr. Luqman. I know it's formal, but I just want to throw in a question for you.
please go
What
ahead.
has been the most, challenging aspect, working with actors who are first-time comedy actors? Since you've been working with me as a first-time comedy actor, you've been working with others. So not to say what is the challenging part, more of what is the, the how do you guys work together in that aspect?
Okay,
Yeah.
so one, this is the first time finding out that you were a first-time comedy actor because you did it so well. And second, I'm not that experienced either.
Hey. Well, there.
to a point.
Don't look like it.
Just because I use comedy as a coping mechanism in real life doesn't make me experienced. and if we're trying to talk about my age, please let's not go there. I think that I didn't find it challenging per se to work with you because we always had the guiding light of Scott McQuaid, you know, and he always found a way to bring it all together. So we never felt those levels, we never felt those differences, and I think that's the beauty of comedy. Unlike any other form of art, there is not that emotional overhead, for example, from dramatic theater, for example, or even from musical theater. And that's why, for example, the experience of working on Dames and Dimes, slightly different, because I know I was there as the comic relief, and that's all I knew. So when I go backstage and then Brian Ace, the main character, is looking daggers at me, like I did something really horrible to him, and I'm stuck there wondering, why is Brian mad at me? And I'm hurt. And then later I find out, oh my God, my character did such horrible things to his gang and his town, and then oh no, they should have told me how bad a character I was playing.
So
as actors, like we tend to, some of us like to, like if we're between scenes, like behind backstage and everything, we try not to break that character because it takes a lot to like tap into the character as well.
Exactly.
It's
good to
we try not
momentum.
to talk. We try not to talk it out as ourselves. Like we talk as our character sometimes, or just don't talk at all in this case.
But I mean, imagine the amount of trouble I would have got into if I spoke as Mr. Russo backstage.
Oh dear Lord.
Probably. For the audience for the audience who don't know, right? When it comes to what happens behind the scenes right before we go on stage, right, is the actors usually are at the back. They're not, and we're not just there waiting for our cues, but usually we're just like really trying to get into our zone. And everyone's got their own sort of personal activity. Some would be meditating, some would be like imagining or listening to music, something to get them into that character, right, just before you get on stage. So I just thought that would be something nice to share with people who do not know what happens behind the curtains. Yeah.
We all can relate.
Anyway, definitely, for sure. Anyway, talking about like freshies and green people in comedy and stuff, Elmy, you and I were talking like on Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday, I think we were talking. We happened to like talk about, I don't know, comedy. We were probably talking about this live stream, to be honest. And we came across the topic of improv. So in Sherlock Holmes, The Missing Script, which is the one that we just recently did, all four of us, it's written by Scott McQuaid. It was a comedy. And it was very much a play on words kind of comedy and like that witty intellectual thing. And there was a bit basically where Elmy and Charmaine, the other actress, they had to do an improv scene, and we kind of got the audience involved, and they gave like suggestions for different words and stuff. So we were talking about it, and you were saying how that was like your first time. So like, what are some challenges you faced and like things that you've learned from doing that, like seeing as it's your first time doing it?
So what I can say about that is it's definitely my first time doing an improv, like right off the bat. And to do an improv, it may be easy to some people because they may be talented, they may be funny in real life. But for some, to get used to that real quick reaction toward words and trying to make those words really funny, it's a challenge. It's an art in itself. So I still remember the first few days of rehearsals, me and Charmaine, we tend to say the weirdest things. And sometimes it will be funny, sometimes it would not. But we build upon that. We learned to, bounce off each other. And you guys can see the product towards the end when we, did the actual show for 2 nights. And we got the best laughter,
For sure.
Yeah.
So that's all I can.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think everyone enjoyed it. I think everyone enjoyed it. It's kind of a hard thing with improv because I don't think there's like a big culture here for like audience participation unless you're at like a what do you call those pantomime? If you're at a panto, you're gonna have to participate in those kind of comedy shows. But in terms of like these theater shows, it's so unannounced and it just came out of the blue. There was no pre-warning or anything for it, and I think people enjoy that excitement and getting to see the story kind of play out and not know. I think Luqman, did your did your wife like say something about her not knowing if it was scripted and
Oh,
stuff
she
like
was
that?
so pressured. Yeah.
I mean, before, uh, at the end of the first day of the missing script, my wife comes up to me after the show, just pure anger in her face. It's like, why did you have to involve us? We were just there to observe. And then
Oh,
Oh
I
my
think
gosh.
I think one of the beauties of that particular improvisation was that it just caught the audience off guard. And again, in response to what Dr. Frida just said, that there is a lot of intellect behind comedy, and I think we need to appreciate that, because it takes a special kind of intellect to plan that level of comedy. And speaking of challenges, how hard is it for us to maintain a straight face on stage? The good
Exactly.
news is we
True.
hope the audience will never find out.
oh. It's one of the joys about doing comedy on stage, but also one of the biggest challenges, because sometimes when a script is too funny or the people you're working with are just so good, right? They pull off the lines so perfectly that even if you've heard it so many times, the same line, you just can't stop but just
Exactly.
It never
break it
stops being funny.
on stage. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
remember
we call that
Alex,
corpsing.
yeah. I
Yeah.
remember Alex, he had like a few times on stage where Charmaine was like giving you a pat down for Sherlock, and then you had to like look away from her because you know the moment. Although you've done this like a billion times, right? The moment you look at her, you're just gone.
It never gets normal for someone to touch your butt. I don't know, that sounds so bad. For someone to pat you down and then look up at you and Charmaine, I'm sorry, Charmaine, if you're watching this, your face just it was just really funny. It was honestly really funny. And I remember trying so hard to learn that it to tell myself that it's not funny, but the more I fought it, the more I wanted to laugh. And I remember having this hack. There was this keluar sign. Keluar means like exit, basically, at the end of the hall. And I remember looking at it briefly and thinking, oh wait, okay, maybe this could be a distraction. So my hack is actually to spell out a random word, and mine so happened to be keluar. So I'd be like K-E-L. You don't laugh, not funny, or that kind of thing. So maybe that's a good hack for corpsing. Anyone else
Good
has
hack.
any corpsing stories, dude? We have so many.
Yes,
It's so
I definitely do.
Yeah.
No, Luqman, you go first. You go first.
For me, the most iconic one was having to work with Daniel, Emira's brother, in the first Sherlock Holmes show that we did. So, and this
Daniel.
gentleman has a knack for laughing, and it doesn't help that Ella is backstage laughing as well. So, and these two combined, it's a recipe for disaster. There was this one moment where we had spilled tea all over the stage, and then both our characters slip at the same time, and then we try to scramble to our feet, but we end up either pulling each other down, scrambling over each other, and then at one point we're both on our knees, holding each other by the shoulders, and we look each other directly in the eyes. And that cosmic moment of eye contact always cracks Daniel into this ever so small, tiny smile on the side of his mouth, and it throws me off completely. And the fact that we had to execute it by getting up and then sort of releasing each other with flair, that was so much pressure that, and I think the only way we got used to it was with practice. And I'm glad we had the luxury of practice.
I think
Absolutely. Oh, man's frozen. But anyway, I was thinking about Ella. You mentioned Ella, about laughing. She did that in the Sherlock that I was into in Missing Script.
Yeah.
She's just giggling at the back, and her mic was on, and it was just bad because everyone fed off the energy, and everyone was just laughing, and it was so bad. And Charmaine with her wig. So there was a part where we had like Ariel, the Little Mermaid, like colored bright red wig, and Charmaine puts it on top of like I'm pretty sure she was wearing a hat.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure she was wearing a hat. She puts it
She was
over
wearing
the
a-
damn hat.
The wig was on top of the hat. Yeah.
And it was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. And I still can't get the image out of my head. Yeah, you have no idea how much concentration it takes not to look.
I mean,
And
I'm
even
glad
if you're not
that-
looking, you're thinking of
Yeah.
the image.
because
I'm glad
the way
I'm
she
being there,
delivers
like,
it is
behind the
very
couch.
special. Sorry, yeah.
Nah, I just said I'm glad I'm in the scene, but behind the couch, so people don't see me corpsing.
Oh
You
yeah.
know? Yeah.
I think what was so great about the Charmaine doing that line with the hair, the wig over her head, right? It's because the way she delivers it, it's like she's literally looking at the person, puts on the wig, like, no, I still don't get it. Like, what's the math? and the way she does it is so innocent, it's so like, and that's why it's so funny.
Right.
It's hilarious. Just the way it looks as well. It's outrageous. I loved
Oh.
it.
But I mean, you guys can't forget, like most of us, we corpse during Sherlock because of one person, which is Abner. For me personally, I corpsed a lot because like whatever I said, he bounced it off and went like, yes, it's very true, and the whole scene. Right, you guys,
Oh yeah, continuing the improv scene. Abner
Yeah.
had a line in that as well, and he kind of had to bounce off what you guys had said.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
basically, you set him up for like his next line. So he had like in his script, he had like a blank. So you'd be like blah 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 blank blah blah blah, and
Yeah.
I think one night I remember corpsing like crazy because it was just so funny. And the nights that like Abner actually got through his lines for rehearsals and like the actual nights, it was just so hilarious. I remember having to turn away and
Right.
turn my giggles into laugh. It turned my laughter into like crying. I think once he said like the character I play, Irene Adler, he said like Irene stole my something, like let's say food, and then I remember I just remember laughing, trying to keep it in, and then I made a little squeak, and I had to turn it into like crying, and it was just so difficult to continue the scene.
Abner,
It
I
was
hope you're watching
so
this.
bad.
Yeah. I don't know.
Abner, I hope you're watching this. You're amazing, man. Love you.
He is.
Brian.
He is the best.
I have a quick
Yeah.
question for you.
Okay.
How is it like, you know how you do a lot of slapstick, right? Like you were talking about
Yeah.
slapstick earlier.
Yeah.
How difficult is it to do like the stunts that you do? Like all your falling, being slapped by me, and like the wall in the first Sherlock, how that whole wall like came down over you. Like how difficult was that? Like, do you want to talk a bit about that?
Well, I've been doing that the thing is, I've been working with Scott for a very long time, right? And ever since the many years, there hasn't been a time where, when it comes to comedy, like Scott lets me off the hook and goes easy on me. So every time there was a comedy script, like for example, I remember in the very early days, there was a film that we had to do, and I was a waiter, and we were beside the pool, and the idea was that there was supposed to be an earthquake, and I had to throw myself into the pool with my school uniform, right? And it was a one-take thing. And that was one of the very first time I had to do stunts like that, comedy stunts, right? And then I started going onto stage, such as my notorious pants coming off. Like I think we're on count number 3. Yeah.
I erased that memory from my mind. Why did you have to bring it back up?
Oh my gosh. So yeah, the notorious pants coming off, having to trip over the stage. I think what, not only the fact that I've been doing this for quite a while, like this kind of stunts, but also the fact that I've been also doing a lot of martial arts growing up. And so when it comes to martial arts, when it comes to training, right, you're taught to like take hits, you're taught to like defend, you're taught to like be sharp, right, and do these kind of movements. So when it came to stage fighting or like stage choreography, it wasn't that all difficult, to be honest. It's instead of getting really hit, like for example, you're getting really hit on stage, or you have to throw yourself. You're being thrown. You actually throw yourself, and and because of that, it just makes the whole thing easier.
Right. So you're saying like it wasn't that difficult for you personally, like on a physical level? Because yeah, but on an emotional and mental level, how was like having your pants deliberately ripped off by a door? How was...
Well, we had rehearsals, so that definitely helped. But the first time I've ever gotten the script, and like we do script reading, and because sometimes Scott gives us the script and not tells us what the choreo is or what the blocking is. So it's only like when we go to script reading, I'm like, wait, my pants does what? Like, what? Like, that was the first time, and I remember the second time he had another script when my pants had to come off again. I was like, again?
It's great.
So,
We all enjoy it.
so yeah, it was okay.
Oh my
Dato.
goodness.
If we have another one in the series, we can have free shows over 3 nights of Sherlock. Scott, how about it, Mr. Chan?
Wow.
This is doable, right? Yes, please.
Consider me
This,
in. Consider
this
me
would be
in.
a dream come true. I've actually
That's
thought
like
of that.
But that's like do you know how much, how, I can't even, three
Oh, come on.
It's gonna be a
different
challenge.
Sherlocks over 3 nights? That's
Oh, come on.
insane.
Alex, we've done 2 shows at the same time. Adding another show is no big deal, right? I mean,
A
like, we
third
only
show
die
should
and
be
had
okay.
no sleep.
I mean, that would be great. And as long as we have everyone's blessing, Dato, thank you for the suggestion. Andrew, Scott, make it happen.
Take it happen. We're here. Give a ring.
We're looking forward to it.
Okay, Elmi, I've
Yep.
got a question for you. All right.
Okay.
So all this while you've been doing theater, because you've started from Daddy Warbucks, right, in Annie, up until Watson, now in Sherlock. Out of all the shows that you've done, right, which one has been the funniest line that you've ever delivered?
Ooh, that's a tough
Whoa.
one.
I don't think can you even remember your lines?
exactly like I wouldn't
Nope.
say a specific line that I remember saying with each of my characters, but in my opinion, I think definitely Watson is the funniest guy I've played so far.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
you see
Hell
the other characters that I've played, like the first one, Daddy Warbucks. He was a very stern guy. You know, he's very a business-like man. And then you see my second role, which is the Red Knight. You know, you see him first as this very
Wow.
like, yeah,
Just
suave,
wow.
like very scary guy, but then he falls in love with this girl. So these two characters, I couldn't really tap into my comedic, vibe until I was given the role of Watson. So with Watson was,
Best decision ever.
exactly. So I got to do, I am pretty sure you guys felt me in my Watson because all I was trying to
Yes.
do is, play Watson, but be my kind of Watson. So that's what was shown on stage. So I think the funniest role I've played is Watson because I got to be myself. I got to be like this really, dumb and old guy. Not to say Watson is old, but and not to say that.
He is old.
Yeah, but like
It's so
I got
cool.
to play this really funny guy and bounce it off Brian, bounce it off Abner, and everyone else. So Watson, no specific line whatsoever, but just the character itself. Watson is
One thing I love about your character Watson, right, it's that no matter what happens to him, he just plays along. Like that's his regular day, right?
Right.
And I think what makes your Watson so great is because um, you don't play Watson. You just be yourself in Watson's clothes, and just being yourself because you're already so funny in real life, right? Whenever I look at you, I'd be like, "That's Elmy, man," and I just think of the stuff that you do outside of stage. And I'm just like, there is no difference between the character he has and like him in real life because you're so good at it.
Thank you, Brian. But yeah, I mean, like, Watson is Watson, but when it comes to acting, you can't fully be a character. That's the thing. So you can only do your best at becoming the character, but in order to make the character alive, you got to put a little bit of yourself in it. Then it will
Yeah.
spice the character. That's the thing,
Preach.
right?
Preach, sister.
Proud of you. Whoa, sister. No.
Well, he is now. And for those who are joining us, you are watching us live on CPAC's YouTube channel, and this is the Comic Toolbox. We are the tools. I digress. So, Brian, thank you, and Elmi, Alex as well. Thank you so much. These, ladies and gentlemen, are my friends whom I've made through previous comedy performances, with brought to us, of course, by CPAC and the awesome genius minds behind it. And Elmi, I
Yep.
think you mentioned that a lot of your comedic performance is rooted in yourself. And that tells me that you're the kind of person who has a lot of interesting comedic moments in real life.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about those, please?
Oh. So you're asking me if there's some influence that I brought to stage in real life.
Oh, we know there's an influence. We just want to know what it
Yeah.
is.
I mean, there definitely. I mean, if with every comedian or with every guy trying to, be in a comedy, there has got to be some influence from the outside. With me especially, sometimes I make friends, and those friends, have a certain kind of joke that they tell. So I vibe with them, I bounce it off them, I adapt with them, and I tend to bring their jokes into what I do. And that may not be just for one person. I might have met someone else and another person, and in the end, it's just a culmination of every person that I've met who has said a line or two that is really funny, or that their characteristics is just so unique that it makes you kind of happy, kind of you laugh at them sometimes.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, do you ever sometimes think
yeah,
like, what, sorry. Do you ever sometimes like have these moments in your life where like something funny happens and you be like, this belongs in a comedy show.
exactly. I mean, I'm pretty sure you guys also have like a moments in your life where you would love if something like this happened in real life. I mean, something happened in real life to be a show itself.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
I think I
I'm
would
pretty
say
sure there
that
is.
Scott mostly, I think it's comedy happens all around, and
Exactly. Yeah.
inspiration is always around you. Is whether you can pick it up and then really materialize it into a script or
Right.
a show or whatever it is. And I think Scott's really good at doing that, which is why we have such hilarious stuff. And I would say most of it is actually based on things that he's experienced through life as well, which is something
Right.
that not everyone knows.
Just a lot
And
of
I think
lives.
that's like it's super cool. It's super cool. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing with comedy. You have to have some inspirations in life. I
Yeah.
mean, life itself is funny, right? You guys agree? Things
Yeah.
happen in the ordinary. Like
Yeah.
you, man, I'm pretty sure you had some instances where in your classes that jokers and rascals around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, so you want me
Oh,
to talk
Brian, you
about?
have a question.
Oh.
Yes,
Oh, Brian.
Brian does.
Hey Daniel, have you
Wow.
done have I done musicals before? Yeah, I have. I think now I'm at like my fifth musical, and it's been quite a journey. Uh, the first musical I've ever done was Hairspray, right? And back then I was just a side character. And funny story, I actually was one of the dancers, right? But because I was so skinny and I was so weak at the time, because I was like what 13, right? I was so skinny and so weak. I couldn't lift this dancer up. And like Scott had to like recast me and put me as one of the sides, the other supporting actors, more of the background actors. And so that was my first musical, Hairspray, and it was not a very
You
fun
got
musical.
demoted in your
I
first
got
musical,
demoted.
man.
Yeah, I got demoted. And so I was like put at the back of all the dancers, so you really can't see me. And I remember thinking at the time, like, what's the point if no one can see me? But it was a really great experience. And then I joined again, and the second time I joined was Wedding Singer, and that's when I played Sammy, who was the best friend of Robbie, which is the main guy. And then after that, I played Legally Blonde, right?
Yeah.
Did I miss a musical? Did I miss it? No, I think no. Yeah, I did Legally Blonde. I graduated, and then I was asked to come back to do a show. I did Legally Blonde, where I played Emmett Forrest, the Harvard graduate, um, who ends up falling in love with Elle Woods. And after that, got called back again to do Dames and Dance, where I played Ace, who was the owner of this underground club, and also a very likable guy throughout the whole town. So yeah, oh sorry, no, I think there was just 4 musicals. Sorry, no, the 5th one is Spooks.
Mm.
The 5th one is Spooks.
Ooh.
Yeah, and that will be held sometime in the future. Now it's postponed to an unconfirmed date. And yes, Andrew is right.
Mohammed.
To this day, Hyman holds the most musicals that he's ever done in Champaka. I think he's held like eight
Wow.
musicals. Yeah, very very long. Because he's not only an actor, but for some of the musicals, he's actually the choreographer. He's choreographed a lot of the musicals as well. So mad respects to him. Currently, he's in Australia pursuing both acting and film. So last I heard from him, he's almost completing his studies, and now he's currently actively working with other production houses to just come up with some work.
Yep.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right.
It's great. Shout out to
Elmy.
Muhammad.
Yeah.
Shout out, respect. Oh, he has 10.
He
He
has
has
10.
In the bag.
Oh my gosh! I thought it was just 8.
Impressive.
Oh, my
Absolutely impressive.
goodness.
Astounding.
He's legend. His face needs to be on Chewbacca wall. He needs an award for that.
The achievement
He
unlocked.
doesn't need that. Everyone knows who Muhammad is.
Right. Raul's
Oh,
catching-
Raul's
Yeah.
catching
I think
up.
Raul has 8. Raul's the one who has 8, I think.
Yeah, because Raul's been doing it since he was in primary school.
Wow.
Correct.
Wow.
Raul, if you're
catching
there,
up.
we
Yeah,
miss
Raul.
you.
Shout out.
Oh, Raul.
Yeah, we
Love
miss
you.
everyone actually. Oh,
Yeah.
and Elmy, you were asking me a question before we got
I'm
asked
sorry.
questions.
Oh yeah. Nah, it's okay. That question is because I already asked you a previous question. I want to
Okay.
ask something to Brian. Brian, there's a question for you. Are
Okay.
there? I'm pretty sure there is, but are there instances where you don't understand the joke or like play of words in a script?
Yeah, many times.
Spill the tea.
Spill the tea. But the answer is yes. To those who have worked with me, right? As many times, what Scott writes, right? Sometimes it's mainly slapstick, but there are many types of comedy in it. Sometimes it's intellectual comedy, which is a play on words. So, for example, the latest Sherlock that we did, right? There was this line that Irene Adler had in the script, which is, she says, "I was just reading a book on anti-gravity, and I can't put it down." Right?
Yeah.
I can't seem to put it down. And the first time I read it, it was in a coffee shop, because that's what I always do, right? Whenever I get a script, I'm not in my room reading it. I like to spend some time in the coffee shop in the sun, and then I'll just read through the script, highlight, write my notes, because it's just part of script study, right? And I remember coming across Irene's line, and I was like, "Anti-gravity can't put down." I took my pencil, I just circled it, put a question mark, and I says, "Need to ask Scott." Full stop.
It was like one of too many lines, because
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Brian, but I don't think words are your strong point.
Yeah.
I don't think words are your strong point. Yeah, unfortunately. I mean,
I'll admit that, like when it comes to wordplay comedy, most of the times it's standing right in my face, but the lines would just go just like
Yeah.
I don't get it.
and that happens
So,
in real life too. It's not just with scripts. It's like with normal things, you're having a normal conversation. Brian just misses the whole point suddenly.
mhm.
Yeah. Oh well. All good.
Other
We
than
accept you. We'll help you.
Charmaine!
Charmaine!
Oh my gosh.
Charmaine, we miss
You
you.
mentioned you just now.
Anyway,
so-
I wanna ask a question, since we're talking about, I mean, this whole thing's about comedy, right? But we are talking a lot about comedy in plays. I think mostly we're talking about comedy in plays. But I wanted to ask, like, for you guys to weigh in, like, what are some differences that you feel comedy, like, how does comedy change from like a straight theater play to like musicals? Basically, that's my question.
For all of
In
you.
uni, I took a theater class, and so we played along with a lot of genres. Like we mainly focused a lot on drama, but also on comedy, right? And we had a few references, and I would say like one of the main fundamental differences between, like, example, drama and comedy, right, is that in drama you can play a lot with silences, right? So you can deliver a line, you can pause, and then you can drag that out just to create that moment, and that creates that suspense, that intensity, and a lot of people do that. Whereas in comedy, you can't do that, because as we all know, comedy, it's a flow, it's a momentum thing. You gotta bring it up. If it slows down, you gotta pick it back up, right? It's a pacing throughout the whole show. So the thing that we rely a lot on are beats. So without you knowing, we actually rely on a lot of beats, which is like there is a pace throughout the whole show, and we cannot get out of this pace, otherwise it ends up becoming very awkward. So for me, those are the two fundamental differences between drama and comedy.
Yeah. Cool.
I like that.
What about like what about like comedy itself? Like just comedy? Like if we do like Sherlock, for example, like the Sherlocks, like they're obviously a straight theater play, but comedy. And then you do like Dames and Dimes, which also has a lot of elements of comedy. How do you think like that is different? Does anybody want to? I'm trying to figure it out. I'm really trying to figure it out.
I'm no expert, and I think the only character I've ever played in an actual musical is Mr. Russo, so I don't think I'm in any
Is
position
that
to
right?
speak. Yes, I've
Is
never
that
acted in
true?
any other musical.
Right.
But with Mr. Russo, I don't know. I think part of playing that character as comic relief was to not be part of the musical. In essence, Mr. Russo did no dancing, no singing at all,
Right.
and even when Ace does the going legit song,
Yeah.
right? At that point, the way I reacted, I think the focus of the show was on the song itself, so nobody might have noticed. But I reacted in a manner of, where is that music coming from? So I think part of the comic relief was to actually detach from the musical,
Yeah.
and to almost fourth wall, but not exactly break through it.
Yeah.
So again, not an expert, did only one.
Yeah. It's a great answer.
Gracias.
Never thought of that. Alex, I got
Actually, I would like to figure it out. Yeah, sorry.
I
Go
would
ahead.
Sorry, no, Alex, I got a question for you, right? So how do you think, like, because you've played several roles already, right? Like you've done Irene, you've also played Oliver.
What?
I'd like to ask,
Who's Oliver?
Yeah, you in Oliver the musical, right?
Right. Yeah, as Bet. I played Bet, Nancy's younger sister.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask, right? How do you think prepping for a comedic character is different from a regular other character?
Prepping.
Yeah, character.
I would say, let's see. Comedy, theater versus musical. Is that what you're asking?
No, like a comedic role and a non-comedic role, like other roles and other genres.
Right. Okay. I get what you mean. I personally feel like for non-comedic characters, there's a lot of prep getting the character exactly right and having it be a completely believable character, because that's the solid foundation of the show or your character and stuff like that. So you can't really be hiding like behind comedy and like your stupid jokes and like slapstick and all that you can kind of get away with in comedies. Of course, you still have to have like a very strong character, like in comedy, for example, like Irene Adler or even Lemonade Cycles. But it really depends on the type of comedy as well. Like, for example, Lemonade Cycles was very much based on like character comedy. So it was very much like in the individual, how we each had different personalities. So Lemonade Cycles, sorry, I never explained. Lemonade Cycles was this little skit that we did, mini play for CalPAC Short and Sweet last year. It was Brian, me, Ella, and Charmaine, and it was amazing. Yeah. So we all had very, very different personalities in terms of our character. So I think in that sense, there's a lot of prep going into the character. But for play on words and stuff like that, it's really just more about knowing your character, but more understanding the words and knowing how to deliver it, basically. But for like dramas and stuff, I feel personally it's a lot heavier on like really, really prepping and getting there emotionally and character-wise. So, yeah.
Okay, I got a follow-up question, right? Which I think the audience would be very interested to know. One of the two characters that you played, Brooke and Angel, very, very different characters, right? Can you share with us the experience in prepping for these two characters, and like how was the experience? What was different? What can you share?
Oh, Angel. So I play Angel in Dames and Dimes. She was a southern blonde. I wore a blonde wig. And she was very clueless. She was very innocent, and that's where the comedy came from. She was always asking, like, with the whole New York slang and everything, she just had no idea what the heck was going on, always. And yeah, completely night and day with those characters. So Angel was very princessy, and she was very much like enchanted, that kind of fairy tale thing.
Yeah.
And
Very innocent as well, and real sweet.
very innocent, super sweet, super innocent, and very lovable, but a bit dim. Um, but I think in preparation for her, it was a lot of pressure because it felt like a very big character and it was completely new to me. I'm very much a tomboy, or at least I was a tomboy before I played Angel, and the transition from being me to finding who I was with Angel and for Angel was really difficult. Wearing dresses and wearing heels and feeling comfortable, dancing very seductively and being a showgirl. It was very emotionally very difficult. But it was a joy. It was joy. It was absolute joy. And with Brooke, I think it's similar in some sense, where she was a very fresh character for me. I think so far in my acting career of sorts, I've played a lot of similar characters. The very, either prim and proper, stereotype kind of, I don't know, girl characters. But Brooke was very much the first ever character that a director or a writer gave to me and trusted me with. I feel like she was really, really special, and it was very hard to say goodbye to her because I put so much effort into her, and I feel like I found so much strength in her. And I remember using music. So I played a lot of rock music and a lot of just tons of rock music while prepping for Brooke, and that I found my power in that, and I fed off that energy.
Yeah. For those who don't know, when you think of Brooke, right, guys, we think of Brooke, think of like goth makeup, think of rock star clothes, and then what was the hairstyle that cornrows and a baseball bat and just anger management issues. Just think about that.
Baseball bat, the infamous
Wow.
baseball bat.
Ooh, there we go.
It's great.
That's the baseball, and we got that through thrifting.
Yeah, guys, dude, if you're looking for costumes and there's no costume department to make your costumes, please go thrifting. It's better for the environment. It's better for your wallet, and it's just it's amazing. We went all together as a cast, and it was like a bonding experience.
Yeah,
it really was. Yeah.
Yeah, instead of spending like $40 just for like clothes on like new clothes, you can get like really cheap ones, secondhand ones that really, really fit your character. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, we got a question from Daniel. What's your performing arts life like outside of Chempaka? Who would like to take that?
So ever since I started working, I've never actually had time to put I've never had time for performing arts except for performing arts within Chempaka. So because of that, all through Chempaka connections. So because of that, I don't really do any kind of performing arts outside Chempaka per se. Inside Chempaka, however, it's a different story because I treat every class I teach as a performance. For those who don't know, I teach computer science to the upper secondary school. And for me, I think the entertainment value of a classroom is very important because if they're not paying attention, they're not learning. And I myself have probably as bad a span of attention as my students. So because of that, when we get distracted as a collective. And my personal philosophy is that, yes, students will remember what I teach, but I think more than anything, they'll remember the time we had. And for that simple reason, I think it's important to have fun. And because of that, and also I think comedy is essential in school because it's a great way, for example, to take the edge off a bad day.
Yeah.
And there are tough subjects, there are easy subjects, and and every day is a mix of that. And I think it's good for me, it's good for the kids also that we have a balanced amount of laughter in a class that's happening. So because of that, I do everything from impressions to randomly bursting into song in class, but it's all for the lesson.
That's
why they love you. That's why they love you.
I'm pretty sure like these students, they're like, usually people will be like, oh, it's just a class. But when it comes to your class, because it's so fun, they'll be like, I'm actually pretty excited to get to your class.
Be in the class.
And the thing is that I look forward to every single class I teach as well. and
Yeah.
that could be a byproduct of that, So the
Amazing.
mutual happiness. Anyway, let's check out this question for Elmy.
Question for me.
Yeah,
How
sir. How
comfortable
comfortable
are
are you with doing slapstick comedy like Brian is?
Ooh, that's a tough one because
Yeah,
so
stick
far,
and ice.
slip and slapstick. So far, I don't have that much of an experience like Brian does. That's why when you see Brian and the way he acts with Abner, it's very smooth. Because like for me, I mean, it's my first time in comedy. I've done comedic lines before in a few roles, but this whole, I mean, I would feel comfortable the more I do it, but as of now, I'm not as confident as Brian is in doing slapstick comedy. But I would love to do more slapstick comedy if it really makes me, be better at it and get used to it. Yep.
Yeah,
wow.
absolutely. It's great.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Okay.
Oh,
Okay, we got this question.
we have one last question.
All right.
Okay.
Have you ever had a joke to a big audience and no one laughs? Or do you ask everyone in audience to do this something but no one does it, leaving a very awkward silence?
All the time. It happens. It just happens.
Yeah. We very much feed off the energy of
Mm.
the audience as well, especially when you're in a comedy. We rely very much on you to enjoy the show. We want to hear that you're enjoying the show, and we feel that buzz and we feel that excitement. And so if you ever come and watch us or any performance, please, behave, but at the same time, if it's a comedy, really enjoy yourself and just
yeah.
it's amazing to
Yeah.
we don't see you, but we hear you and we feel the energy, and it's great.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So
it's-
anyway.
Oh, thank you,
Oh,
Doctor.
thank you,
Oh,
Dr.
thank
Frida.
you.
And
That's a great.
that's the
yeah.
best way to end the week.
Yeah.
That's the best way. That's the best way to end this live with
I'm gonna-
Datu's comments.
Go sleep
Slow
very
down.
well.
great.
Life's not ending. Hold on.
Live.
We have a long way to go.
Live
Oh, live.
stream.
Oh, I thought she
Oh.
said life.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh
I'm
my
like,
gosh,
what, my
no.
life? No.
Life is great. Anyway, we just I think that's a great way to wrap it up. We
Yes.
miss everyone out there. We hope everyone's keeping safe and drinking lots of water and staying
Lots of
1 meter away from each other, washing your hands, all that.
Right.
We just want to say thank you for coming, tuning in, and just watching us ramble and hearing us speak about things, all things comedy. And we hope that you enjoy the stream. And
It's their love. It's their love
Yeah.
and support that
It's
keeps us
the love.
alive. The
absolutely,
comedy that keeps us going.
absolutely,
I also want to say, right, like as actors, right, we can't do it without the audience. There is
Absolutely.
this energy and this feedback we get from the audience that actually drives us in the show.
Yeah.
And we march on anyways, but to have you guys there, it's why we do it. It's why we're in the arts as well.
Yep.
Right.
absolutely. You guys mean the world to us. Anyway, let's wrap it up. This was the Comic
yeah.
Toolbox. I'm
I
the
love chatting with you
screwdriver.
guys.
Elmy, are you the saw?
Sorry.
Are you the hammer?
I don't think he saw what you did there.
No, I
So-
probably be a or something. I don't know.
Oh my god. Okay.
Uh,
Anyway, guys,
thank
have a
you.
great rest of the weekend.
Thank you, everyone
Thank you,
who joined
everyone.
us. And I think the Champakans are on holiday for the next 2 weeks. So enjoy the first half of our early summer break. And when we get back, hopefully we do it in the physical presence of each other. And who knows, let's hope we have a third Sherlock Holmes show to look forward to.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your love and support. Please check out the other videos on this channel. And as always, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a lovely weekend. And yes, we look forward to our next opportunity to do this again. Thank you very much. And thank you to my awesome friends, Brian, Elmy, Alex, and the entire team at CPAC for putting this together. Thank you always for the wonderful opportunities that enrich our lives and keep us going. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and good night. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye bye.